my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. We are burgeoning, coming real close to episode 100, and we are still very much in season 2. I'm still your host, Ike. Before I spout any more sounds or make any more grandiose notions, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me your ears. Now, if you still have the bandwidth after you've enjoyed the episode, please share it with somebody you think would like it, or just subscribe to yourself if you already haven't. That'd be pretty dope. Speaking of pretty dope, I went to Disneyland. Woo! It was awesome. I think all the rides I rode were all new ones, which is kind of cool. So there wasn't any like weird comparisons. Went on the teacups, much to Amy's happiness. Very much spinnies. It was a great time had by all. Went on Space Mountain, which I've never gone on, and that was really dope. Something about riding a roller coaster in the dark somehow is better than riding it in the light, which I did not think would be the case. Went on both Star Wars rides, Rise of the Resistance, and what was the other one? They're both dope. Rise of the Resistance had the longest line, and the ride is pretty long too. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's dope, and don't leave the line early. Stick around and enjoy the whole entire thing. It is well worth it. Very much an experience, not just a ride. Had candy apples, had other overpriced food, and just an all-around fantastic time. Thank you so much, Dan and Amy, for coming down and doing that with me. It was a blast. Then the following day, got everybody together, myself, Dan Silver and co, Aaron Barish, and drove down to the San Diego Convention Center. Waited in a stupidly long line to get in. I cannot believe it was that long. It was ridiculous, but it was so much darn fun. Got to play in a little mini master tournament, which for those of you that don't know, it's really rinky dink, just very much casual fun. So it was really nice to go from a week of preparation to have a day where got to play this little event, got to play against some people that were also queued for the event or just chilling and have fun. You know, the first person I played against was the wife of a married couple who were there on vacation from Iowa or something like that. And she was so sweet and very new. I did win, but I didn't care if I lost. It was great. We were just playing for fun. It was, trying to play Magic in this very much cobbled together nonsense. So rewinding a little bit for those of you that aren't in the know, the way mini masters work is, in this case, you're given 2 packs, a very smidgen of lands to build your deck, and then you have to play. So you're very much using cards that you would normally look at and go, nope, and throw to the side, but you've got to play them because you don't have that many resources, and, do with what you got, as they say. So I got to have a lot of fun doing that. Take a moment to just gush about the San Diego Convention Center. If you ever have a chance to go to an event that is at the San Diego Convention Center, I cannot recommend it enough. It was gorgeous. And the hall we were in, which is upstairs and to the right, which if you're not there, it's not gonna make any sense. It was naturally lit. They did have lights as well for when it got dark, but it was, it was all glass. And so we're just in there. It's very well lit. It's light. It's nice. The breeze is coming in from the outside a little bit. Oh, so fantastic. And the tables they had there were like actual good tables. And then there were the chairs. Oh my gosh, the chairs. These are the best chairs I've ever sat on, full stop. I've worked in the casino industry since I was 19. I've gone to the World Series of Poker. I have dealt effectively on live television. I've sat in those chairs. These were the best chairs I've ever sat in. They were fantastic. And they were over the whole entire hall had them. So kudos to the people running that there. DreamHack, the San Diego Convention Center. Fantastic event. Now, going on to the actual event. So I remember last time I said, you know what? It doesn't matter how this goes. I'm hoping to do my best. And, I'd like to do well. But, if it doesn't go well, it's fine. I'll finally get a break. Well, crap. I did amazing. I was one game away from having the best possible finish. I ended up getting second place, losing in a heartbreaking third game. Had a terrific time. And now I'm not only qualified for the Pro Tour that is in, I found out is in 3 fucking weeks. So I have like 18 days to prep, which is ridiculously small. If I didn't have a job, it'd be cool. But however, I have a job to go to, so I have to go to work and then come back and nose the grindstone and then rinse repeat. Luckily, I found a team in short order, and so I'm testing with a group of 7 other like-minded fellows, and we're going to put our heads together and hopefully come up with something great. Shout out to Chris Ferber for making that possible and including me. I appreciate it. But so got second place. This has not only allowed me to go to the Pro Tour Minneapolis in like a little less than 3 weeks. I'm also going to the Worlds tournament, which is going to be like roughly 100 players or so come September, and play for even more money, which is rad. So I've got that coming up, and second place has given me enough resources that I will not be able to actually have, or not be able to. I will not have to work over the summer. I think I've talked about this, but my job is roughly 9.5, 10 months out of the year. The rest of the time, or the summer months, there's 2 summer months that are basically, I don't have a job. I still have covered healthcare, thank goodness, but I don't have a job. So I will have 2 months off instead of 2 months working at some weird gig or doing Uber, which is fantastic. So now I don't have to worry about that. However, I do have to worry about this upcoming tournament and hope to do really well, or at least preferably, obviously I'd love to do really well. But if I do have a record of at least 9 wins and 7 losses, or at least 9 wins, it can actually be less than 7 losses, but at least 9 wins, then I will qualify for the next Pro Tour, which will be in Barcelona, Spain over the summer. And, you know, if that happens, future Isaac will probably want to make a little bit of a trip out of it. So fingers crossed. But yeah, so it kind of a fantastic thing, but also now I'm faced with a lot of stress and anxiety, and kind of dealing with attempting to finish great in the upcoming tournament. So apologies if some of these intros sound a little rushed, or perhaps the episode comes out a skosh late or something like that. Know that I am trying my best to do like this, my job, and testing for an upcoming tournament. I apologize in advance. On the plus side, during the summer, hopefully I'll be able to focus and make some of the things about the podcast just that much better. So stick with me, folks. Good news hopefully incoming. But yeah, as I have written in my show notes here, whoops, no brakes, all gas. The only bad thing about the weekend, other than not winning that last game, was our fucking Airbnb sucked. It was really hard to find when we came into after we left Friday. We went and tried to find the Airbnb, and the directions were weird. And when looking around for it, we ended up walking down a back alley, getting spooked by a dog, and then trying to walk around the front and find it. And we ended up walking on somebody's lawn, and poor Dan Silver, I don't want to say he almost got shot, but he almost got shot. This old African American gentleman was standing on his lawn, as he should, and being like, "You're looking at the wrong place." Dan's like, "Sorry." I kept trying to tell him, like, "Dude, get off my lawn," basically. And Dan was like, "I believe you, but also it looks like on Google Maps we should be right here." And the guy just kept telling him in more slightly aggressive, passive aggressive forms to get the fuck off my lawn, lest there be consequences. Until, luckily for all of us, Dan's younger brother Jeffrey found the place a couple doors down, and we were able to find the place. And then once we found the place, it was basically multiple beds shy of what we'd been anticipating. The futons were like sitting on spring coils. The beds were meant for children, so my feet stuck out the end of the bunk beds. Yes, bunk beds. The bedding was something you'd find out in like a Walmart like used bin or something like that. It was just bare. I mean, luckily it's San Diego, so it didn't really much matter because the weather's perfect. I understand why people pay so much to live there. It's freaking gorgeous. But the bedding was just like sparse and crap, and luckily the tournament experience for me made up for it, so very much 1% complaining. But yeah, so fantastic things have occurred and are continuing to occur. This week we've got the fantastic Billy. Billy's somebody that I've met off and on accidentally, or not accidentally, well, kind of accidentally. He's somebody that I've met off and on through Magic. He's worked in, setup and judging and stuff like that all around, and just been a pleasant guy. It was really cool to get reconnected with him via Sean Cadenese and just have a chat about all things cool and fun. So please, without further ado, enjoy my interview with Billy. All right, folks. Today on the pod, I've got a doctor of psychology, the winner of the scholarship from hell, team member of the 1 touchdown 02-04 Nazareth Eagles, chapter 11 writer of Stranger Things Psychology, and owner of 50 Elder Dragons and their Highlands. It's Dr. Billy San Juan!
The crowd goes wild. Hi, everyone. Hi, Isaac. How you doing?
I am doing so good. My guy, I gotta know, though, before we get past the good feels, what was your first concert? What was your best concert?
The first concert was probably, it was Engelbert Humperdinck. I'm not even playing. I was a kid. He was playing at some venue, and my mom and aunts were huge Engelbert Humperdinck fans. So they dragged this poor little, 5-6-year-old to the concert. I'm sitting on the ground on a cardboard piece of, a piece of cardboard. Mm-hmm. They're cheering, they're singing. I'm wondering what's going on. There's kneecaps all around me because I'm a tiny child. Best concert I've ever been to? That's an excellent question. Best concert, I would have to say Linkin Park. R.I.P. Chester.
R.I.P. indeed.
Yeah.
What album was this after?
I want to say it was after Minutes to Midnight, but I could be wrong.
All right. Solid bangers.
Yeah, they played their hits. The crowd was wild. Chester sounded amazing on the mic. That was a fun night.
Where was this?
Somewhere in the Bay Area. I can't remember specifically.
Oh.
Yeah. All I remember was we were sitting kind of in it was a nosebleed seats area.
Mm-hmm.
It was so nosebleeds that there were no seats. It was just a hill. I'm pretty sure
it was so nosebleeds, there was no nose.
Exactly. It was so nosebleeds, there were neither seats, noses, or bleeds. No, but it was a fun concert. That was
awesome. What's your favorite non-exercise thing that you have to force yourself to do?
The non-exercise that I have to force myself to do.
But you feel pleased or, very life affirmed after you have done such arduous task.
I'm going to have to say writing.
Fact.
Right? Because...
Can't confirm. Feel good after, during, you're like, God, take me. I'm ready.
You sit down and you're like, this is going to be terrible. Everything I write is going to be trash. And then when you're done, you're like, this is trash, but it's my trash. I'm proud of this garbage I've created.
There's this really weird writing technique. I very seldomly use it, but I've heard that other people swear by it. It's you sit down and before you get into writing, you just write the worst short story or paragraph you can. You intentionally try to write dog shit.
I've never
heard or tried this. No, it's for a lot of people the reason that they have difficulty writing, supposedly, or this guy's theory was that when you write, you are terrified of putting something bad on. For a lot of writers, you're terrified of putting something bad on the page, and you're worried. You're worried of failing. So if you start off at low, all you can do is go up, and so it releases you to write more freely and be less caged and be more expressive, theoretically.
I like that idea. I think a lot of it is the fear beforehand, but I think a lot of it is also we are our harshest critics.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, and this is just on my end, I'll write something, and in the moment, I'm like, this is amazing. This is going to be a bestseller. I'm going to win awards for this. and
Yeah,
then I'll
that
read it.
same.
Yeah, and then I'll read it afterwards, and I'll be like, "This is terrible. I wrote with my asshole, and shit came out. Oh my god!" So,
I do the same thing. I have to hear somebody else read it, but like when I'm like reading my own stuff, it's the same thing. It's just like the awards, the money, the accolades, the harem, they're all coming this way, and then
the
somebody reads
harem.
it. Somebody reads it out loud and like not, and just like they don't understand the inferences that I was trying to go for, whatever, or they just like, read it like a normal sane person, and they're just like, I just hear it, I'm like, oh my god, it's
right?
just dog
Like,
shit.
you,
What
you
have I
come up
done?
with this metaphor that you're like, this is such a deep metaphor, and it's gonna be so like this is Nobel Prize worthy.
Yeah.
Oh, they're gonna connect the dots, and then no one else gets it because you.
Yeah, everyone else is like, what? Yeah. Who's someone you've never met, alive or dead, that you'd like to have lunch with?
Oh, that's a good one. You know who I'd love to meet? I would love to meet and have lunch with Warren Buffett.
Just so he could pick up the check?
Yeah, exactly. Free meal first and foremost. And if he doesn't pay, he's a jackass for
Send
not
it.
paying.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've seen some of his like some sound bites. I've seen some clips. I've seen memes where he gives advice, which are 100% verifiable. Every meme is accurate ever. But I feel like he would have some pretty solid financial advice that could pertain to any class you're in, any income level you're in.
Yeah.
Because he started his whole thing, if I can remember correctly, just by buying gumball machines with profit he made off of one gumball machine.
I can believe that. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
He also, I believe, lives in the same house he bought like decades ago, owns like a pretty cheap car. He's very thrifty.
Yeah. He's like thrifty but not hurting, right?
Yeah, he's not like thrifty to the point of like, not utilizing his money, but he definitely isn't like splurging ever, which a bit of a punt in my opinion, but to each their own. Spend your money however you want.
Yeah, one life, man.
Yeah.
I just want to feel validated for when I have to buy the generic brand like milk and cheese.
Yeah.
I just want someone to comfort me. I want Warren Buffett to hold me close to his bosom and stroke my hair and tell me it's okay, you're making good financial decisions
Exactly.
by buying Walmart brand shredded cheese.
That is a sleep tape I would buy. Warren Buffett giving you like the dulcet tones of Warren Buffett being like, you did good. Buying that off-brand toothpaste was a smart decision. Just like saying it softly, like, oh.
It's like one of those sleep apps where they narrate something. It's just Warren Buffett, right?
It's just Warren Buffett going down your looking over your Walmart receipt and being like, that was a good buy. Like, oh.
That's the entire tape. Him just reading off a CVS receipt.
Yeah. Tombstone Pizza. That's a smart financial decision. You're like, oh, I knew it.
I knew it. Thank you, Warren. Good night.
What's your favorite movie line to quote?
Oh man, there are so many. It's not really so much of a line, but it's kind of become a joke in my household. The opening bars to the Jurassic Park theme.
What? Na 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 na. Or wait, no, I messed that up.
I'm sure na 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 is in there somewhere. The
Now that's gonna get us hit with a copyright.
Oh yeah. Hello,
It's just
copyright.
too perfect. That's a great one. Apparently, all right, gonna dip into too deep inside baseball. Back in Mirrodin, apparently I heard this rumor that when Team CFB was testing, anytime Efro started drafting the dinosaurs deck, he would start humming that theme subconsciously. Supposedly, I don't know if that's true. I don't really care. It's the funniest thing I've ever fucking heard. Just like drafting a deck, a bunch of pro sweaty nerds like trying to like, unlock the keys of the format, and then just starts to
That's the
Just
worst poker
travel.
face ever.
Yeah. I wonder what he's drafting. All
I know,
right,
right?
time to block. Uh,
Oh, that's funny.
what's
I'm
your?
not...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, after you, sir. What's your favorite non-traditional curse word? Perhaps to say when you stub your toe around a child or some such.
I picked this up recently. Duck cake. It's from you, and you and I were talking a little bit before the podcast about the show Bluey.
Mm.
Kids show, but also aimed towards adults. Very validating for parents.
I think it's like what it's kind of like a it's like a not Saturday morning cartoon, but like an after school special kind of cartoon made in like the stylings of like Pixar, and that, you know, gives good lasting message, has a solid story, also has stuff for just like, you know, kind of like wink wink stuff for adults that are a little less like wink wink than Pixar, but yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you point that out, because I think those are the most successful kid shows, right?
Oh yeah.
Pixar, Rugrats used to do this all the time. Bunch of Nicktoons.
There's so many gifs that I see of like times that Rugrats like was winking at the adults that had to like watch the kids. So many between, I think it's like between the twins, like Phil and Dill, or whatever, where like one of them would say something and it's just like, all right, that was clearly
that was clearly an adult message.
Yeah, it's so great.
My favorite meme from Rugrats is the one where the dad Stu. It's like the middle of the night and he's just cooking pudding or something. and the mom goes, "What are you doing? It's like 3:00 at night." And he goes, "I've lost all control of my life." I have a beautiful 1-year-old son, and I can verify I have no control over my life anymore. Everything
Sometimes you
is
just gotta cook pudding at 3 a.m., you know?
Exactly.
Reclaim your status as king of the land.
In order to first reclaim your status, you must first claim the status. And I've never been king of any land. God help any land that I'm king of. It would just be chaos and anarchy. Oh, but yeah, duck cake. Because there's an episode where one of the two main characters, one of the two kids, wants a cake shaped like a duck. And the dad is just not having it. This cake is falling apart. And a few episodes later, he stubs his toe or something, and he just exclaims in pain, "Duck cake!" And it's so close to like,
yeah,
you know, like
it's got all the right phonics of a curse and of many curses that we use.
So that is my non-swear swear word of choice now. It's just
love it. Yeah, that's so great. Cake. And also it gets to be like a nice little like grab for other, like if you say that in a public thing and people don't know about it, you get to introduce them to Bluey, which choice. And if people do know about it, you get to kind of look at each other and just like nod approvingly, like, well done.
Right, the secret
good no curse, yeah.
Adults Bluey Club. We'll see you at the meeting. Yes, secret handshake, duck cake. Yes.
All right, well, now that we're talking about secret meetings, I don't know how this connects, but you're going out to a party and you want to look radical. Other than your normal garb, what accessory do you add your ensemble?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would have to say my R2-D2 watch.
Hell yeah.
This thing is, I forget what brand it is, but I picked it up at Disney at D23 Con. Beautiful watch. It's silver. The plate on the inside is blue, and it's shaped like R2-D2's little sensor thing.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's nice.
Initially you said that, I was like, I think there's an R2-D2 Rolex, but then you're like, I don't know what brand. I was like, well, it's not that one.
Yeah. If it was a Rolex, I'd tell you.
Yeah. Also, you'd remember because you would have gotten an earful when you came home.
Exactly.
Like, look at this awesome thing. Does that say Rolex on it? Maybe. Run! Duck cake! Duck cake! Duck cake!
Duck cake! Warren Buffett's voice would be in my ear.
Yeah.
You didn't need the Rolex.
Yeah, just like it wouldn't even be his voice. You just like see him just shaking his head and
In like Obi-Wan Kenobi form, just transparent.
Yes. Yeah. Just like in dismay, he's like, I thought I taught you better.
You've fallen away from the ways of the Force. Oh.
Do you have a life hack you'd like to share with that class to improve their daily living?
Do I have a what now?
Life hack.
Life hack to improve daily living.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent question. I'm going to say always have cash in your wallet. And whenever I tell
There's
people...
like some broke guy out there listening to this like, fuck you!
And if there is some
I
broke...
would if I had any money!
I don't even have a wallet!
I can't even afford a duck cake!
Ah, duck cake! No, and then it's funny because, you know, I'll tell that to people. I've told that to some of my cousins just as life advice. Because we're so used to paying with things online, and we're so used to paying with credit cards, debit cards, apps. But the problem is, and this is kind of the hack in and of itself. I don't know if it's a hack we conduct. But when we buy things, we tend to make better purchases when we pay with cash because we observe the one-to-one transaction, right?
Yeah, it's a like I remember reading about this. It triggers something in your brain when you do something digitally. It doesn't register in human brains. It might in future generations because everything becomes digital. But we are such, at least you and I feel like we're about the same age. We started off with everything was analog, and so the rubric and the kind of foundation that we grew up in is analog, and still for a lot of people it's analog. And so when you purchase something in an analog fashion, it tracks as I paid for this thing. I have now less resources. You can see the amount of resources. It is like, you know, a physical diminishment of your wallet, unless you trade like $100 bill and you get like 2 20s back, and then that's a whole different kettle of fish. But when you do something digitally, right, it doesn't track as a purchase. It feels free, right? Or
exactly.
Like freer.
It feels free, and then you get that endorphin hit of, ooh, I just got something for free. I should do this more often. And I'm not speaking from personal experiences purchasing magic cards.
No, neither am I. That's never been me. Not once, not ever.
No, I'm not totally on TCG Player buying cards right now as this podcast is being conducted. Never. Warren Buffett just comes back up. Yes. Comes the Rolex.
Billy. Sorry, Warren. Sorry, Mr. Buffet.
He just starts glowing red from rage.
Warren Buffett, the financial father. Billy.
Darth Buffett, no.
Darth Buffet. Why I never.
Actually, as I'm looking at it, another pretty good life hack, and I'm only saying this because it's right by my desk for some reason. I encourage anyone and everyone who cooks their own meals to purchase a vacuum sealer.
Oh.
I gotta tell you, my participation in this podcast is way more financially focused than I thought it would be. I have no idea where that's coming from.
So what's the sealer? Go on. Tell me more.
So the vacuum sealer, it's basically for food. You put stuff in a bag and it vacuum seals it. Takes all the air out, which means it's gonna spoil a lot. It's not going to spoil as quickly. Things are going to stay a little more fresh. And
what kind of items are we talking about here?
Anything and everything. You can do. What I use it for is when I buy meat. Love meat. So
and meat loves you.
You know, meat and I had a tryst a couple years ago, and I just can't get meat out of my mind. Should have seen the sheets after that. They were terrible. Anyway. Just now I have an image of just like rolling around in bed with like a pork loin. Just macking on it.
It's just good dirty living right there.
Yeah, I tell you. My wife is looking at me like, what the hell are you two talking about?
So when you is it mostly just for stuff that you're putting in like the freezer, or does it like is there stuff that you're putting in the refrigerator that helps elongate its life, as it were?
Yeah, if I ever cook anything like a soup or anything. Sorry, this interlude brought to you by Crying Baby.
Crying Baby, the #1 sponsor of Passionate People Preposterous Bees podcast. Crying Baby, brought to you everywhere by young and tiny children across the world.
Act now, save more. I'll even use it for soup, which is crazy, right? Like, how do you vacuum seal soup? But you can freeze the soup and vacuum seal it while it's frozen.
This is some like doomsday prepper shit right here, son.
Right?
This is I don't know if I'm ready to freeze. We're going too far down the like cool rabbit hole that I do not feel like I belong anymore. So to extricate myself from this and just talk about food in a fashion which I am comfortable, what's your favorite meal to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors?
Ooh. Another great question. I'm a simple guy. I'm going to say just a Nutella and Biscoff spread sandwich.
That sounds like the most beautiful case of diabetes you could ever enjoy.
Oh, it's so worth it. I'm not a healthy man.
No, so you're talking about, and I have experienced this firsthand, and it is wholeheartedly deliciously disgusting. You're talking about the Biscoff, like butter, it's like a speculoos spread, basically, right?
Yeah, it's like speculoos, but it's Biscoff brand. Get the crunchy kind.
So damn good.
Slather it on one slice of bread. Slather
or
Nutella.
Just eat it with a spoon and drink a whole lot of milk like I did.
Oh, yeah. Just stick it into your veins. Grab a large gauge hypodermic needle. Suck out the Nutella and just right in.
So delish. Oh, yeah.
I know, right? I'm having physiological reactions just thinking about it. I'm cheating on the pork loin with Nutella and Biscoff.
All right, just stay in the same venue, but kind of dial it back a skosh, I hope. If you were a condiment, which do you think you'd be?
So I have an existential reaction to this comment, or to this question. Because what defines a condiment?
Whatever you would put on food that is not an essential ingredient, I guess. I don't even know if that's hold on. Quick to Webster's. I'm curious now. What? All right. Condiment, noun, a substance such as salt or ketchup that is used to add flavor to food. So something that is, I guess, going to add. Condiment is a preparation that is added to food, typically after cooking, to impart a specific flavor, to enhance a flavor. Yeah, so something that you add to that is not an essential ingredient, I suppose. Okay. But then that gets into a weird nebulous zone because there are certain, like, a hot dog without mustard, a lot of people would consider not a hot dog.
That's true.
So I think, what is your heart desire to be a condiment, my good Dr. Billy?
I'm going to say, if salt counts as a condiment, I'm going to say salt.
I dig it.
The reason I say salt is, there are multiple reasons, right? Because salt is an essential ingredient in a lot of the foods. But salt also
especially French fries.
Oh, of course. It can't have potatoes without salt. That's blasphemy.
You say that, and In-N-Out does it, and I went to another place that did it the other day, and I duck caked everywhere, by golly.
If you're duck caking everywhere, you might need to speak to a doctor. You might need an ointment or something.
Yeah, or maybe just salt on my fucking French fries.
But what I love about In-N-Out, though, is that when they give you salt, you know how they give you that weird, like, corrugated salt packet?
Yeah.
It's like powdered cocaine salt.
Yeah.
It's not like regular table salt where the crystals, you can feel them. It like, you open it up and if there's a slight breeze, the salt just whiffs away.
Yeah.
Into someone else's eyes.
Yeah. That's what they get for being an In-N-Out. Punishment rains from above.
True. Yeah, but I mean, salt enhances flavor. I like to think that I enhance people's lives. That might be slightly narcissistic, but it's true. I'm
Yeah, you
amazing.
do.
Um, and salt, you can use it in a lot of ways you didn't expect, right? I like to make candy, and one of my go-to recipes is a sea salt caramel.
Mmm.
So, yeah, I'm gonna say
Fact.
salt.
Love it. Love it. What inanimate object would you be best friends with sentient while we were in the nebulous land of incarnations?
Hmm. Excellent, excellent question. Again, you are hitting me with the hard questions, sir.
Rawr. Come on, passionate people, and get assaulted with hard questions.
Hey, get it? Assaulted.
Rawr.
Dun dun dun. I would have to say I would love to be I I had the answer to this and now I forgot it. I'd love to be a book at the library.
Any particular author or genre?
Whichever book or genre is hot at the time, because then you'd get to see other people's homes, you'd get to kind of see their lives. Do I get checked out and then I just sit there and don't get read? Do I get checked
What
out
a
and
sad life.
I know, right?
You're just like a bookend table that nobody, like a coffee table that nobody ever reads. You just sit around just lonely, gathering dust, occasionally to be cleaned and set back in the same place.
I have a party and I need people to think I'm smart. Let me borrow a couple books to display. Yeah, but then you get the avid readers. Am I read quickly? Am I read in bed? Am I read in the toilet? If I'm read in the toilet, I get to see some exciting stuff. No,
That's one take on it.
I'm a kinky man, Isaac. I'm a kinky man. I'm a kinky book. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that. Well, we're kind of in the same area. What media, whether it be book, graphic novel, TV show, or movie, have you been putting off that is next on your to consume list?
oh, let's see. I have a couple books, some of them older, some of them newer, that I've been wanting to consume. I've got a couple collections of Junji Ito's stuff, like short mangas, short stories.
Mm.
He's got some really good creepy stuff. And the best part about some of this stuff is that it's creepy, but it doesn't make sense, but it's so creepy it doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah. It
One of
fits outside that paradigm of necessary logic.
exactly. Because if you have too much logic, it's not scary anymore.
Yeah.
Like there was one that I recently read in one of the anthologies where there were just giant floating heads abducting people. And I'm like, and it's Junji Ito, right? So his stuff is just drawn beautifully scary.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask why there are giant heads floating around hunting down people. I just went, holy shit, that's scary. I hope giant heads don't float around hunting people.
I hope to dodge these floating heads.
I know, right? This is not what I meant when I said I wanted head. Ah!
But
Hey-o.
well, while we're in the area of media, who would you want to play you in a movie of your life? You can choose the time period of the actor and the time period of your life that is being showcased.
I'm going to have to say Jacob, I think his name is Batalon? I'm probably butchering his name. So Jacob, if you're listening, I apologize. But he's the guy who plays Ned in Spider-Man, the Marvel Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
Or I guess MCU Spider-Man, we should say. And I'd probably ask him to play my early mid-20s, because that was definitely a time of growth and exploration for me. First of all, he's one of the very few actors who kind of looks like me, basically kind of a chubbier Filipino man. But I like his comedy in that and I've only seen him in the Marvel Spider-Man movies, but it's understated, and then he'll hit you with an overstated reaction.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very similar to kind of how my physicality as well. So
That's a great deep hit. I love that.
Yeah, he's also got that same like the chubby Filipino cheeks. So
Just those ones you just want to pinch.
yeah, I just want to pinch those little suckers. So cute.
Well, during that time, or maybe another, did you have a life lesson that you wish you learned sooner than you did?
Yeah, to market myself better.
How do you mean?
Um, so I was always kind of a person who I loved to make achievements. I love to do things, help people grow, but I wasn't very good at advertising myself. I wasn't good at marketing myself.
Mm,
It would always be, someone would compliment me and I'd just make an awkward joke or I'd compliment them back, and it was hard for
yeah.
me to really go, "Thank you for acknowledging that."
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I wish I had learned that earlier.
Same. That's I completely connect with that statement. It's so hard. Do you feel like so for me, my the reason I think I was so reticent to accept true praise was because I myself didn't believe I was worthy. I always had like image issues and self-esteem issues. Why do you think you had such difficulty accepting, praise and confirmation of success and like being able to like be positive about yourself?
I think a lot of it is similar to what you went through, and I think you and I are very much alike in that. I think a big part of it too was kind of where I'm coming from a collectivistic culture, where if I make it about myself, that's being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that got ingrained a little too much in me. Like, oh no, 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 this isn't
Too much
my.
in all of us.
I
Yeah.
know, right? And I'm noticing our generation too, and I don't know what it is about our generation, but we were kind of taught that somehow.
Yeah.
Don't make it about yourself, make it about others. Well, sometimes it got to be about you.
Yeah. And that's fine. That is very okay
Yeah.
for things to be about you. This idea that everything, like, I had this for me growing up, and no shade to either my parents who are listening, they did as I tell them every time I can, because I think this needs to be like, parents are going to fuck up, doesn't matter which generation. And if you tried your best as a parent, I think you succeeded as much as you could. And in my opinion, I believe my parents did the best they could and like tried their hardest for my benefit, which I cannot ever repay back. But one of the things that I remember kind of subtly learning, not intentionally, but unintentionally, was this idea of having pride in yourself as if that was a lack of humility. And therefore, anytime that you were like, no, I'm good at this, and being proud and being stepping forward, not having somebody else have to say it for you, that was considered like a shamefully, like a
Kind of like bragging or
yeah, like braggadocious, or like that kind of like douchiness. And like that does exist. There are people that take it too far, and I believe they do, there is a fine line, but where you are being confident to where you are bragging. But that kind of minutia was never really taught to me. And so growing up, I was always like, okay, well, if I am saying like, yeah, I'm good at this or I'm great at this, well, I'm clearly, bragging, and therefore, and that kind of has these ramifications where it's like, even to this day, it's hard for me to go, yeah, I'm good at this. Like there's that minutia never got taught to me. So I either go like, I am like 80%, 70% in the land of being like, yeah, I suck, I'm like, whatever. And then occasionally I'll just like jump the shark and be like, I'm the fucking best. And it's like, I can't find that fucking like middle ground, because it's like unacceptable to just like be there a decent percentage of the time. So I'm like constantly like either like like hyper polarizing in either direction, which is not healthy.
either I'm terrible and I don't deserve praise, or bow down to me.
Yeah. Worship me, insects. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, and you're right, it's definitely a skill. I think a lot of people, when you talk about the nuance, a lot of people don't realize that you can acknowledge your accomplishments. You can acknowledge what you're good at in a way that comes off humble still.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, what's a good example that you've utilized or you've seen or was like a good kind of catalyst for you to understand that?
I think it was a conversation I had with Tim Shields. You're familiar with Tim, correct?
Hold on. And then there was Googling. You're talking about the author?
No, he's this interlude brought to you by Crying Baby.
Crying Baby, the number one sponsor of Passionate People and Preposterous Beefs podcast. Crying Baby. Get anywhere you can get a baby, you can get a crying baby. Don't let your life be quiet, crying baby.
That makes it sound like people buy a baby and then make the baby cry and then return the baby.
You can never return a crying baby. Limits and statutations apply, and there will be no return of said crying baby once baby has gone to crying baby from being baby.
This sounds like a trap. Here's a perfectly
It's
fine
only a
baby.
trap if you don't like crying baby.
Which everyone loves Crying Baby. Visit Crying
Everybody
Baby
loves
now.
crying baby. Thus, get yourself a crying baby. Who is Tim Shields then, if he is not the author that is immediately coming up on my Goog?
Tim Shields, he's the owner of Cascade Games.
Okay.
Yes, heavily involved in the Magic the Gathering tournament scene. He's the owner and creator of the Judge Academy. Good friend of mine and has mentored me in a lot of ways. And I remember we had a discussion a while ago. It was during a judge conference in LA. And he had watched an interaction where someone, I met someone, they introduced themselves, I asked them a lot of follow-up questions, and they asked me about myself, and I just made a self-deprecating joke.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me aside, and he goes, "What was that?" And I'm like, I'm just uncomfortable talking about myself. I have a little bit of that imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember verbatim what we were talking or how he approached it. But he basically said what I've been saying, where there's a difference between being boastful
Mm-hmm.
and merely acknowledging who you are and what you've done.
Yeah.
And for me, kind of like what you were saying, acknowledging what I've done to me was always, oh, you're bragging.
Mm-hmm.
So finding that nuance was really helpful.
Yeah. It's finding that way of having it not be over the top. And it takes a lot of work. It's not something that can be done overnight, especially depending upon like the length of the kind of diminishment programming that you go through to where you are unable to do that. It is definitely like a talent and something that, I don't know about you, but I am still very much still working on, even though it's been years since I realized, oh yeah, it's okay to be proud of what you've done. It's okay to assert, not even just decency, but, like your opinion on, how good you are at something, or even your accomplishments that you've achieved in, a venue.
Absolutely. There's reality, and then there's embellishing reality. And as long as you stay in reality, you're fine.
Yeah.
Crying Baby has been moved to another room.
Crying Baby no longer a supporter of this podcast. It has found a much higher shelf on the Joe Rogan podcast. What poor man luxury do you still enjoy to this day?
Ooh. What poor man luxury do I enjoy? I'm a sucker for cheap sweets.
Bring it home, baby.
I'm talking about Hostess cupcakes, and
Yeah.
those Nutter Butters. I'm talking about candy, and not brand name candy. I love brand name candy, but I love that 7-Eleven generic. This chocolate tastes a little suspicious.
Funky chunky monkey.
Oh yeah, I'm a sucker for those things.
Oh, they're the best.
And don't get me wrong, there's something nice about having like the occasional Godiva chocolate bar. Or
Treat yourself to something real sweet.
some real sweets. But give me chocolate that's turning white because it's ballooned all the chocolate fat out because it's been on the shelf for 20 years and no one's bought it. You know, when you bite it and it just crumbles because there's no moisture left. That's what I'm talking about. If you don't feel shame after eating that food, then it's not the right food.
Yeah, exactly. Compared to our last topic, the objective of this is shame.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We came to the store looking for it. By golly, we're going to get it.
We are.
Along with some diabetes.
There should be like a shame rating for your recommended daily allowance of shame on the nutrition bar.
7-Eleven would sell out tomorrow if they had a shame rating.
Right? Oh, cholesterol 7%, sugar 20%, shame 99.9%. This is a deal.
Let's go. Speaking of 7-Eleven, what's a job that at some point in your life you wanted to pursue but are very glad you didn't?
Oh, I always wanted to be an actor. Did a lot of high school theater, did a lot of college theater. And I was going to pursue it. I actually got offered a full ride to, I think it was the Commedia dell'arte theatrical school.
Sweet.
But then I learned how much the average actor in America gets paid, and that includes the Hollywood actors.
Yep.
Like the big ones who make it and it's like below minimum wage.
Yep.
Because there are so many struggling. Like, for every one actor you see on screen, there are a million others just trying to land a gig, trying to land a commercial, or who just don't have it. And I'm not so self-deluded to think that I have it. So, yeah, the first part of my high school and college, or my life in general, was really kind of geared towards that. And then I thought, if I'm going to have a family someday, I need something a little more stable.
Yeah.
Much love, though, to any of my actor and actress friends listening to this. Like, you guys are amazing. I am in awe of what you guys do.
Yeah. It is definitely one of those things that the juice... you can't approach the activity... And it's sad that it is this way, but it's also, I think, beneficial that it is this way in a strange sense. Because you can't approach to be an actor, and I think this is one of those things that, like, it is harsh, but also I think it is, like, for the best for all parties involved. Because if acting was something that you didn't have to do for the love of the game, you would get way more hacks than there already are. Because then there'd be people who just knew how to market themselves that are acting that aren't good actors. But so much of what acting is, and this is hot take territory potentially, but so much of what acting is it is a love. And so if you don't love the game, like, you can't stay in it, which kind of helps the fact that, and like there is some predatoriness to this, but it helps that there is less money because it kind of weeds out those who were never there for the right reason or there for like the kind of long run. Like, you had a priority for a future with a family and being able to support them. That's beautiful. And I think that's very good. But if you were the type that was going to be an actor and like you, I don't want to say had it because I think that's an absurd thing to say. But if that was, you know, if the pay helps extricate those who can't help themselves. And I think so much of what acting is, especially in Hollywood acting, where you have to go into, unless you're super lucky and like Leonardo DiCaprio and accidentally get your first part, you have to go into audition after audition after audition after audition. And if you can't help yourself but do that, it's going to kill you anyway. So like taking away that illusion of money might actually be better in the long run.
I agree with you, but I don't think it's a big deterrent for a lot of people. I know a lot of people who go in, you know, and their main motivators, like you said, isn't the love of the game itself. It's, I want fame, I want money, I want to be on TV and adored by millions.
Yeah, well, they're
And the odds are that's not going to happen.
no, it's not gonna happen.
Um,
That's yeah. For those people, I hope they find time to look in the mirror because that is definitely a very short road to ruin.
yeah.
That just is going to take a while to walk. But yeah, that's troubling to hear.
But on the plus side, we currently live in an age where if you do have that love of the game, like there's so many ways to express it.
Yeah,
Like TikTok.
yeah. It's
Uh,
so awesome to see like people that write and create their own shorts. It's
yeah.
TikTok is so perfect for that. TikTok, there's people that do it on, they make people have made some awesome movies on YouTube, like short films on YouTube that they couldn't otherwise make. It's yeah, people that do it from soup to nuts is like this is the time to be alive.
It definitely is. The time of the self-creator or the
Is
creator.
no.
Dun dun dun.
Woo. All right, lastly, before we throw it to a commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast or one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Hmm. I'm gonna have to say off the top of my head, it's a Filipino like pop folk song from like I want to say the 60s or the 70s, might be the 80s. It's called Balita. That's Balita by the band Asin, Asin. Um, Asin means salt. The band used to be called like Salt of the Earth, and Balita means news or gossip, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who's not familiar with the song, um, it's a really solemn, kind of depressing song, which makes me question why I'm. This is the first one that comes to mind. Um, but the narrative of the song is someone comes by. It's nebulous on if they're coming home or to a new village,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about how their home, their homeland, is stained with blood. Parrots are trapped in golden cages and being sold. Um, it talks about how there were people who used to have fire in their hearts, but the rotten people would stomp that fire out. And the Philippines is a beautiful place with a beautiful culture and so many beautiful subcultures. And as a Filipino American, I was born here. Um, I find that I my connection with my homeland, and I'm not talking Los Angeles where I was born,
Mm-hmm.
but my connection with the Philippines is not just acknowledging that beautiful part, but acknowledging, our history where we've been colonized by, the Spanish, the Japanese, so many other people who would do pretty horrific things. And because of just the way the American education system, I mean, obviously focuses on America more, I feel like a lot of Filipino Americans who are in my shoes, we don't really get exposed to that unless we seek it out.
Yeah.
My grandfather would tell me similar stories to the one in the song because he was alive during the Japanese. I was going to say internment. That's completely wrong part of WW2. Uh, Invasion, I guess. There's a word I'm
Mm-hmm.
missing.
Oh, I think that's pretty apt. Invasion sounds
Yeah,
about right.
during the invasion, when he would get guns and bayonets stuck in his face because he was traveling from city to city selling salt. And he would talk about his friends would, one day go missing and no one knew where they went, but everyone knew what happened. So yeah, I would say check it out. You can probably find, for those of you who don't speak, it's a Tagalog song, except for the last part of the chorus, but that's neither here nor there. Um, it's a Tagalog song, so you can probably also find a translation online to help you kind of understand what it is. This took a very dark, depressing turn.
Well, We're going to throw it to our first ad break. Feel free to
There you
stick
go.
around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to really sit down and enjoy Balita by Asin. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Beef Podcasts, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Have you ever wanted to kill a small woodland creature or break a window but not had the physical strength? I know I have. Now introducing Rock. Rock comes in a variation of sizes and ready to use. Simply put Rock in your hand, raise it back to ear level, and release. See? You've got it! This ad does not condone the violence against small woodland creatures or windows, nor will it be held liable for any inability of use when coming into contact with paper. Welcome back, everybody. So, Billy, what's your passion that you brought with you today?
I am very, very passionate about several different things. I think the most interesting conversation, though, would be masculinity, but as a culture.
Go on.
Well, we talk about masculinity a lot, right? In social media, TV shows, amongst conversations, and masculinity as a concept, I think it tends to get nebulous because we're talking about behaviors and patterns that we see. I like to think of it as a culture. When you think of it as a culture, you see that there are rituals involved in masculinity. There are reasons that things happen. And just like all other cultures, it has to shift to stay modern. And we are at a fascinating point in the evolution of masculinity. Because we have three groups of people, right? We have a group of people who are trying to fight against this shift of what a quote-unquote man is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who are adapting to the modern-day gender identity of a man. And we have people who are saying this isn't happening fast enough. We need to go even further to change what manhood is.
So if I can try to, if I'm understanding you correctly, we have one group that goes, this is the way it is, this is the way it was, this is the way it forever should be. We have a group going, okay, but what if? And then we have another group kind of complaining that the trolley is still not at its destination and isn't too far away from its station that it has left. Am I understanding that correctly to metaphorize it?
Yes, I like the trolley metaphor. There's a group that says the trolley's here. It should always be here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the trolley.
or back at the station.
Back at the station.
Because there is a fair, if I understand the argument that a lot of people say, and I'm not just like, looking at the far end of the the kind of line, a lot of the people that say this is here and that's where it should be also wouldn't mind if it moved back a skosh, depending upon how depending on your own personal definition of masculinity, right? Because it does change person to person. There are certain people that believe masculinity is doing X. Other people are like, X minus 7.4, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, oh, we should be men like back in the 20s, those were real men.
Yeah.
And then you have people going, no, back in the 1800s, those were real men. Then you have them.
So you have a regressive stationary bit. You have it's interesting. It sounds like of the other two of the three are like on a similar page.
They are. From my personal opinion, which
Okay.
is, hey, this is the man of the modern day. I'm fine with it. And then there's the man of the modern day still has a lot of work to do, and they're not moving fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
I personally lie somewhere between the latter two. I cringe when we have these YouTube, TikTok, quote unquote manly men, right?
Liver King.
Sorry?
Liver King.
Exactly. Well, and because they're defining masculinity in such a narrow scope. And that's where we get what a lot of people like to call toxic masculinity. I like to call it maladaptive masculinity.
Ooh, so many more syllables.
I know. The
Learn
more the
me.
syllables, the smarter I sound. The
Learn me something,
mitochondria,
doctor.
endoplasmic reticulum. God, he's a genius.
Oh, I worship at the altar of Billy.
Oh God, don't. That's a terrible altar. It's really just
there's so much duck sauce and no, not duck sauce. So much duck cake, so much 7-Eleven chocolate and baby poo.
and it's hard to distinguish the baby poo from the 7-Eleven chocolate.
Look at what you put in your face.
I mean, that's just a good rule overall. But yeah, so in our books, the books I'd mentioned, we call them the Psych Geek books, because we take psychological concepts and we merge them with popular culture topics.
Love it.
And in some of my chapters, I talk about how we can use those popular culture topics as a metaphor for what masculinity is, was, and can be. A big part of, I guess, one of the overall themes is a concept called gender role strain. So gender role strain is the dissonance that a person gets when real life experiences do not match what society, what their culture is telling them their gender should be. And that goes for both men, women, and any other gender beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
For masculinity in specific, there are 4 areas that researchers have really kind of identified where this plays a really big part in how we end up not happy. It can cause depression. It can cause anxiety. It can cause dysfunction in relationships. The first one, and if you want to read more about these, check out the Psych Geek books online. You can Google me on Amazon to get a link to those. But there are 4 pillars of masculinity, right? And when I say masculinity, I mean Western, modern masculinity. And the first one is that in traditional masculinity, men tend to define who a man is in direct opposition to what a woman is.
Mm-hmm.
Masculinity is anti-femininity.
Mm-hmm.
So, if women show emotion, men must be unemotional. We mustn't show emotion. Now,
And this, of course, follows along with, if women breathe air, men must breathe water.
Oh, we breathe beer. Those are the 4 elements, right? In Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
Air,
obviously.
beer, barbecue.
Everything was fine until the Bear Nation attacked.
There is no beer in Bossing Say.
What a sad state of affairs.
What a sad city.
No beer in
No
Boston.
wonder everyone there is just terribly hopeless. And it makes sense, right? Because one of the things I like to, whenever I do a lecture about this, is make it a point that these narratives come from a place and a time when they were survival-based. And in some areas of modern life, it's also survival-based.
Mm.
If you're in the military and you're in combat and one of your buddies gets shot, you can't show emotion because that'll be weakness. If you're crying over your fallen friend, you're in danger too.
Mm-hmm.
The mission is in danger.
Yep.
So the hypermasculinization that we see in the military is absolutely appropriate for that context.
Yep.
It's when it gets moved to civilian life where it becomes maladaptive. And now you can see why I don't like using the word toxic.
Mm.
Toxic implies that there's never a good place for it.
Yeah.
Maladaptive means it's not adaptive. It doesn't help in this context.
Yeah, we've moved it from one zone where it was positive and useful and it had, qualities that were necessary to an area where it doesn't.
Precisely. And that's one of the 4 pillars is anti-femininity. This is what a woman does, and if a woman does it, a man doesn't do it. And honestly, that pillar is where we see a lot of homophobia and transphobia as well.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is achievement, I guess. It's kind of colloquially known as being the big wheel. Where...
Sorry. Look at me, I'm a wheel.
Literally, if you are not a wheel, you are not a man. You must have spokes and an axle.
I have spoken.
Ah.
Feel free to steal that one.
I definitely will not.
Oh.
I'm playing. That was a good one.
Yay.
Yeah, no, so the big wheel, the idea that as a man in masculinity culture, you define yourself by your achievement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the boss. I'm the top of the ladder. I'm the top of the totem pole.
It's medals on a jacket.
Exactly. It's not the fact that you're wearing the jacket. It's how many medals you have on the jacket. It's how many patches you have on the jacket. It's how long your resume is.
Mm-hmm.
And that also kind of ties into the idea of being a provider.
Because the more you have, the more you can give. The more you can give, the more you matter. Right?
Precisely. The identity is tied into how can I provide and protect. Which is, again, in and of itself, not bad. It's not unhealthy.
There are positive notions buried within this maladaptive quality.
Precisely. Love the way you said that. That I might steal.
It's all yours.
The issue is when life experiences prevent us from doing that. If we tie ourselves so much into our job, for example, and then we get fired, a large part of our identity is taken away from us. If you're in line for a promotion and you don't get that promotion, a large part of your identity gets denied.
Mm.
If you're in... Sorry, there is... This message brought to you by Baby Crawling Around.
Crawling Baby, a large supporter and continual provider of the Passionate People Proprietors podcast. I butchered that.
Thank God for editors.
No, I'll leave that in. I sound ridiculously stupid. I love it.
No, as do I, my friend. As do I. You are doing fantastic, and I'm having a fun time.
Cut that out. All right. So
the big wheel. The issue is when we don't define what providing is.
Mm.
And a lot of times with masculinity, our definition of providing is food, shelter, money, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because emotions are seen as a quote-unquote feminine thing, emotional care doesn't really fall into that.
Mm.
So protecting emotions and vulnerability is something that we need to work on as men.
Yeah.
The third one is colloquially known as the sturdy oak. It's basically self-reliance. I'm tall, I'm strong, I don't need anyone, I don't ask for directions, I know how to do this.
I pull myself by my own bootstraps.
Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps.
You're a monolith.
Yeah, you're an indestructible monolith.
Yeah. Like back in the day, my father's father, blah, 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 blah.
That's pretty much how it usually goes, too. Yeah. My father's father, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It comes with that idea of you were born alone, you die alone, which is, it sounds dope, but it's also equally fucking stupid.
Thank you. Right? Like, you can't function as an island.
No.
So that self-reliance, I've seen it myself in therapy sessions where men will not want to ask for help because I need to do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And if I ask for help, I'm weak. But you're not weak for asking for help. In fact, you could make the argument that human beings are a social species and we're strongest when we work together.
Yep.
So, and then the last kind of pillar of this is aggression. If someone hurts you, you hurt them twice as bad.
Yep.
Problem is, a lot of times you're going to get hurt by people that you can't hurt back. It doesn't allow for forgiveness.
Even if you can, yeah, absolutely. That doesn't. It's an eye for an eye, twofold. But the problem is, even if you can hurt them, one, they likely know somebody who can hurt you as well. But it's this cycle. To go back to the wheel, it is this cycle that just continues to go. You know, if I hurt you and so you have to hurt me, well, now I have to hurt you back, right? There isn't a like end point unless somebody dies and has no friends, or unless somebody musters up what is a non-masculine trait and forgives.
Bingo. But if you forgive someone, you're just lying down and taking it.
Yeah. You're just a pussy.
Yeah. And, oh, it's funny you bring that up, because it ties into the first pillar, right?
Cats are the first pillar?
Yes. Cats are the first pillar.
Meow.
I mean, what are some of the most derogative things you can say to a man when insulting him? They're either stripping away physical traits, or they're basically calling him a woman. Yep. Oh, you're a pussy, you're a wimp, you're a wuss. You cry like a girl, you punch like a girl. Yep. You throw like a girl. Like
it's either that or homophobic, you know, like.
Oh, yeah. Or homophobic.
Yeah.
You know, what are you, gay? What if I was?
It continues that proliferation of removing, you know, reversing it so that they are not this mythological creature that never existed in the first place.
And is impossible to exist.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know?
It's like if it's like if you went to like Michael Jordan after he lost a game and then that was your definition of him. It's like, well, he lost the game. Not real great player, not an all-time winner. Lost a game. Like, yeah. What does that have to do with anything? It's like, that's, people function that way. Not that being gay is losing a game, but to take one thing that you consider an L. We're just going to go with that theoretical absurd fallacy to begin with, that like the idea of doing this is an L, that the idea of taking one L defines your whole entire person forever because of this one L, which it doesn't. Also, it's not a fucking L, but
no.
The idea that you have to be, like, you know, we were talking earlier, you have to be this monolith. You can't have a single unsharpened, unprotected edge. You have to be this, like, impenetrable, undefeatable, you know, monolith, obelisk, spear, sword, whatever. This infallibility is impossible.
This is my view on what a man should be, and if you don't adhere to one of those views, then it erases all of your masculinity, in my view.
All or nothing, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so those are kind of the four pillars, and it fascinates me because we see this all the time. You know, in one of the books that we wrote, I compared masculine culture to the idea of Cybermen in Doctor Who. Cybermen cannot feel feelings, right? They have a feelings inhibitor in their chest. We also wrote a chapter with about Iron Man and Captain America during the MCU Civil War, which, again, as your viewers I'm sure know, is very different from the comic book Civil War. But how much differently would the movie have gone if Cap and Tony had just sat down and talked
Yeah.
and expressed their feelings? It would have been a boring movie, but
Yeah.
less people would have died. Segovia would still be around. So
Yeah, that's so much of it, it's not glamorous, it's not glitzy, and it's not nearly as fun to watch, but it's a lot more fun to experience, which is, I mean, like, if you look at most media is stuff that you wouldn't want to experience. Nobody talking to people, even people in the military that are gun hardy toting, love bang bang, if they have a brain in their head, if you go, hey, zombie apocalypse pretty sweet, huh, they go, fuck no, that would suck. Talking to military personnel, they're like, that is, no civilian knows how bad that would be. That would just be like atrocious. Nobody actually wants to live that. It's cool to watch, but it would be terrible to live. And just, all the MCU stuff is cool to watch, but to live would just be like, it would be very bad for your longevity as a human being. You would just shave years off your life for each one of those instances, but it's very fun to watch. The reality of most circumstances is that it's better to not have it be like something you should tell your friends. It's better to be like something that isn't problematic at all. To sit down and have a conversation like we are now and learn something. Learn the idea of maladaptive. It makes so much sense once you said it, but I had no idea. Like, it is so much more helpful to our society progressing forward to refer to it as maladaptive, because that changes the approach we're taking to it. Instead of something that needs to be completely extricated from our society, it's something that has a time and a place. To look at the military and go, yeah, you kind of need that. It's not awesome, but also war isn't either. And you need to have people that can do the unthinkable in the most problematic of circumstances. There is a time and a place for it. It's just not the rest of society. And so to be able to sit down and talk about that like we are now, learn and progress, is what you want. You don't want to have to, do a bare knuckle brawl like in They Live to get them to put on the glasses to see the reality that is and grow as a person.
precisely. It's a very all or nothing mindset right now on all ends of the spectrum for this discussion in our zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And we're missing that nuance.
Uh-huh.
In the military, yes, if you're in battle, you might have to stifle some emotions for your own survival, for the mission.
You ain't got time for nuance when bombs be blowing up, yo.
Exactly. But at the same time, we also need to be able to, if we can train emotions out of people, we need to have a better system of training them back into people.
Yep.
There's a concept called, and you mentioned earlier, big words, normative male alexithymia.
All right. Bray, explain to me like I'm 5. Explain to me like I am our sponsor for today's episode, Crawling Baby.
Crawling Baby for all your crawling baby needs. So let's break it down into the 3 separate words. Normative, meaning it's universal. Male, applying to males. Alexithymia. A, indicating the lack of. Lexi, as in words, like in lexicon.
Mm-hmm.
And thymia, feeling. The normal male tendency to not have the words for feelings.
Mm.
And the way I like to introduce this topic, you have 2 young boys on a soccer field, let's say 5 or 6. One of them falls, scrapes his knee, and starts crying. What does his friend say to him?
Get up.
Get up. Walk it off.
Yeah.
Don't be a baby.
Put some dirt on it.
Yeah, rub some dirt on it. It's nothing. What do the adults say? Basically the same thing. Don't stop crying. What are you, a girl?
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that bad. Well, then you take
When
that.
I was your age, blank, blank, blank.
When I was your age, the ball we played with cannonballs, and I lost 3 toes and kept in the game. And then you get older. First breakup. What do we tell them? Oh, it doesn't hurt that bad. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Hold
Just
your
get
head
under
up.
it. Get under a new one to get over an old one.
Get under a new one to get over the old one. So what we're doing is we're training throughout, and this, we live in a society where we're getting a lot better about this, but it's not perfect yet. But what we're doing is we're teaching those kids to completely ignore the feelings that they're experiencing. Now, I don't know as a kid what is pain. I don't know as a kid, as a teenager, what is love, because I thought I
not
was in
only
love.
what is love, what is pain, but how to express it too, right?
How to express it, how to work through it, how to share it. I thought I was in love with this girl. I'm heartbroken because my love is no longer reciprocated, and other people are telling me that's not love.
Yeah.
So what we do is we train emotions out of kids. And then when they finally have a strong emotion, they don't know what to call it. They don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
When I work with people who go through a loss, a lot of times the men, obviously they know they're sad, but they don't know how to feel. They don't know what to do. Now, I identify as a man. I like to fix things. That's part of the culture, right? Men fix things. It's broken. Give me a hammer and a nail in 15 minutes. I'll fix it. How do you fix death?
Yeah.
You can't fix death. Now the one thing in your life you can't fix has happened to you. And you don't know how to handle it. If my identity is tied to providing for my family and I get laid off because of an economic recession, what do I do? Well, now I feel hopeless because I can't fulfill my one identity, so I spiral into depression. Never mind I can still provide emotional comfort. Never mind I can, think outside of the box and find another way for income. No, I can't provide. That becomes the main cognition that consumes me. I've failed as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's damaging. It's very maladaptive.
Yeah, because not only have you failed, but we're taught that, when you fail, you're a loser. But secretly, I feel like, at least in those situations, I know that there was nothing I could have done, but I'm still a loser. And so you're stuck in this weird, paradox that is, you don't have an escape from. You can't express because you're a man, damn it. And so you're stuck in this spiral of hating yourself, being angry, not being able to express it in healthy ways, and not knowing what to do next. Because you're
Exactly.
a loser.
You're a loser. You don't deserve a second chance. You already failed the first one. No, you deserve a second chance. And a third and a fourth. Because human dignity isn't tied up in anything else other than you are human. It's funny because this is going to sound like a tangent, but I promise I'm going to bring it in. UFC fighters, a lot of UFC fighters have a high emotional intelligence. And the example that comes to me right now was an interview with Dominic Cruz after he lost the championship to who did he lose his championship to? It was years ago. I forget the name. Blonde dude, really good striker. Which kind of is half the UFC. But Dominic Cruz, he was doing this.
Cody Garbrandt, Terry
Cody
Kongo?
Garbrandt. Yeah. Okay. It was Cody. But Dominic, he was talking in an interview about my grandmother told me, if you fail, the only real way you actually fail is not learning a lesson from that failure.
Mm.
And it's fascinating to me that that came from his grandma.
Yeah. And that he was able to say that on a public stage too.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's kind of my mission right now is to kind of get the word out. And there's a lot of other amazing people who are working on this as well. Chris Kilmartin is a psychologist who is absolutely fantastic. Really influenced my views on this. Of it's okay to cry,
Mm.
it's okay to fail. There are ways to react to things that aren't just aggression.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's my view on maladaptive masculinity. You asked me what I was passionate about, and I just kind of ranted for about half an hour.
This is awesome. When did you first get introduced to that idea, and especially that particular word, not word choice, but that take on maladaptive masculinity?
It was kind of a culmination of things that I was experiencing when I was in graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even before then, I wasn't really like I was raised in a household of like seven aunties and my mom, who was a single mom. Um, so I would interact with other kids differently, right? Like I was kind of the soft spoken, how do you feel about that? Instead of, let's jack them up.
Mm-hmm.
And then in grad school, I took a course on masculinity by Dr. Vic Frazeo. And as we were talking about all this stuff, and it was kind of a half seminar, half straight up lecture,
Mm-hmm.
um, around that time was when the term toxic masculinity was really starting to get thrown around a lot. And it's always been my view that when people have a behavior, there's a reason for that behavior. When people have a thought, there's a reason for that thought. And most thoughts and behaviors have a purpose. So the quote unquote toxic behaviors of masculinity serve a purpose. The real discussion isn't why are we doing that? It's what purpose does it serve, and is that purpose applicable in modern times?
Or let alone the circumstance here, because modern times is a very gigantic venue, but
True.
like we're talking about, it is like place to place. So it's not only that it shouldn't necessarily be used, but it shouldn't necessarily be used here. Or maybe there are instances in which case it just doesn't belong in our timeline. But by and large, it sounds like from our conversation, perhaps it doesn't belong in whatever circumstance you're in, whether it's civilian life or the playground or a comic shop or a coffee shop or a theater.
Yeah, there are some things where, like we were talking about the emotion aspect. Those are things where you could make an argument for it's needed here but not here. But I think there's also parts of masculinity that just have no place in modern society. Um, Chauvinism,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we are living in a society across the world where, obviously some countries less so. We'll keep those countries anonymous, but I'm pretty sure if you ever scroll Twitter, you'll know which ones they are. But there's no place to think that someone's gender or sex in and of itself gives them any sort of power or dominion over another gender or sex.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about maladaptive masculinity, or just this particular area of study when it comes to the idea of masculinity by the wider world? Other than that, it's whole cloth, good, bad. Like to kind of point at the whole idea of it, it is kind of funny that I think about it, that so much of the way masculinity is viewed is the way that masculinity views the world, which is in this like black and white, hyper polarized way. sans that, what would you say is the biggest misconception about masculinity, specifically maladaptive masculinity?
I would say that it's inherent. There's a lot of people who will make the argument that because a man's got testosterone, that makes him more aggressive. You know, because we're built genetically to have a little bit more muscle. I would say that's a big misconception. First and foremost, and this is not my specialty within this, but I believe that there's actually research that's studying which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Mm-hmm.
Are hyper-aggressive individuals hyper-aggressive because they have more testosterone, or do they have more testosterone because of the hyper-aggressive behaviors?
Interesting.
You know, overall, men tend to have more muscle mass, which is an argument a lot of people make. But women have a higher pain tolerance.
And also, I mean, the whole muscle mass thing could be linked to like societal expectations, right? Like if we are constantly expected to be the fighter, the bruiser, the warrior, the provider, it kind of goes to follow that you would be kind of set down this path that means that you are more likely just via activities, because there are more sports for men technically, especially there are more rigorous sports for men that are just more openly and availably provided, that you're going to end up with more muscle mass when
Absolutely.
you come to like middle age or, you know, even adolescence.
We can even take it to nutrition. You know, barbecues, steak, meat, protein, all advertised towards men, so that's what they tend to eat when they're younger. You know, but salads, diets, kale, I don't know what healthy foods are.
To be fair, anybody can have my kale. That shit's gross.
Yeah, I am not a kale fan. But kind of lower protein meals are more advertised towards women.
Mm-hmm. Also, this idea of being dainty,
yes,
as like being, you know, like the societal expectation of that also changes the, you know, muscle mass argument too, of like, well, he's expected to be bulky and strong and she's expected to be, you know, lithe and
slender and petite.
Yeah. Genteel,
and that's to the point, right? Exactly what you were saying, and that I'm agreeing with, is there are so many other factors that go into muscle mass and body size. So the argument that, well, men are supposed to be dominant and aggressive because we have the bodies for it, just falls apart. Yep. I'm a man. I identify, I was born male. I identify as a man. I'm cisgender. I have a body like a potato. I ain't winning any fights, bruh.
No, it's a strong looking potato. I've seen that potato. I don't think I could take that potato. I'm gonna leave it on the side, let it sit on the grill for a little bit, get some butter, maybe some cottage cheese, and then I'll try to take on that potato.
Cottage cheese on a potato?
Don't at me, bro.
I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to try. I'm a bacon and cheese, like cheddar cheese man myself.
Just add some cottage cheese to your bacon and cheddar cheese, because those are just the two most base food groups right there, bacon and cheddar cheese. But you add some cottage cheese. Yes, you start there. Those are the building blocks of society. Bacon and cheddar cheese. Bacon and cheddar cheese, 2024. Just saying, I'd vote them in.
FDA, hope you're listening.
On the flip side of that, what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect to talking about and the research that you've put into maladaptive masculinity and just masculinity in general?
So that's a funny question, because you would think it's women coming up to me and saying, thank you for explaining this. You would think that.
Of course.
But a lot of men have come up to me after convention panels, after book signings, and have said, like, we've had discussions, you know, this explains why I didn't cry at my dad's funeral.
Yeah.
This explains why I've been having trouble with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't, when I approach it, I try not to approach it in a very attacking manner. And I understand when people approach it in an attacking manner. My personal preference is, hey, here's the data. No judgment on who you are or who you've been or where you've been.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the data. And the data shows that if you can't read emotions, if you're having trouble expressing your own emotions, that's going to get in the way of a loving relationship. If you've never learned to cry, if you were punished for crying, then yeah, bro, you're not going to cry at your dad's funeral. Because you've been taught, behaviorally speaking, crying is bad. Crying leads to punishment. So I've had a number of men of all shapes and sizes. One in particular comes to mind. Homie looked like a bodybuilder. This was at, I want to say, a WonderCon a couple years ago. Came up to me and he thanked me, and we discussed more about, how he viewed manhood, how his father viewed manhood, and how society views manhood, and how all three of them were different. Because he was getting more of just by the friends he had, he was very athletic. Sorry, got a little distracted. Crawling Baby again.
Crawling Baby is a proud sponsor of the 2024 Bacon and Cheddar Cheese campaign, and is a fantastic sponsor of this Passionate People and Preposterous Beasts podcast.
Crawling Baby, have your babies crawl today. But he was getting different messages from society and from his dad. And a lot of it made him uncomfortable.
It's because it's reshaping his world, right? Like, so much of what he had learned from his father is now changing.
Yes.
In like a fundamental way, right?
And so it was that gender role strain that I was talking about. His dad raised him to act a certain way, and not only was he realizing society is changing, but he was also realizing the man that he loved, the man that he really looked up to, may have had some views that weren't very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I love having those discussions. Hopefully he brings, those people who I've talked to, they bring some of that to their friends and to their families. There's a hypothesis out there, and I don't know if there's a study. I'm pretty sure there's a study. The whole demographic thing of women living longer than men?
Mm-hmm.
One of the theories out there is that women live longer than men because of their emotional health. If they're experiencing some sort of emotional turmoil, it's societally expected that they're able to talk with friends, get emotional support. Whereas because men are taught, just drink a beer and get over it.
Yeah.
We have higher levels of hypertension. We have higher levels of, what was the phrase you used? Get over her by getting under someone else?
Yep.
Promiscuous, impulsive sexual decisions that may lead to STIs. Not sex shaming by any means, but that's
when it comes from a reactive, I need this to assert that I'm a man, I need this to feel better. When you're not doing it when you're not doing most things for the right reason, it usually ends up badly. But especially when you're doing it for that compulsive reason, to feel good, rectify your, manliness, your pride. Not only are you more likely to get STIs because you're doing it for a reflexive reason, but you're also more likely to be in a worse relationship, more likely to, damage your mental health and potentially their mental health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you think of reasons why, when we get together, right? Men typically, we try to come up with a reason for it. Hey, let's grab a beer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go play pool, which there will be beers. You know, let's go golfing and then have a couple beers. We can't just go, "Hey, I'm having a tough time. Can you come over so I can talk?"
Yeah.
"Hey, let's go grab lunch. I really need to discuss this divorce." We always have to pair it with something, and typically we pair it with something that's unhealthy but brings down our emotions or our emotional guards, right?
Yeah.
I forgot what the initial question was. But
It doesn't matter. We got here, and I don't know. It's really fascinating and fun and very enlightening to talk with you about that. Where can we find? You were talking about books. Where, before we move on to the next segment, where can we best find the books that you have written?
you can find these psychic books at your first and foremost support independent bookshops. There's a couple great ones where I'm from in San Diego, Mysterious Galaxy, Warwick's. You can also check out some book chains like Barnes and Noble. If you're in an area where you don't have access to a bookstore, you can find them on Amazon.
And how do you spell Psych Geek? Spell it for me, please.
Psych Geeks, but it's kind of our little name for ourselves. PSYCH, second word Geeks, GEEKS. But if you search Billy San Juan on Amazon, it'll take you to my page. We have a couple other books that I didn't contribute to, but are also fascinating. We have one on Game of Thrones. I wasn't part of that one because I hadn't watched it, and I wasn't about to binge Game of Thrones for that book. We have one on Wonder Woman. Yeah, we have quite a few titles. If any of you listeners would like to check those out, it would be much appreciated.
All right. Links will be in the descriptions. So to move on from something so pleasant, so passionate, and so progressive, let us move over to the pedantic, the preposterous. Billy, what is your peeve?
Oh, bruh. You gonna ask me this?
Oh, I'm gonna ask you this.
Oh, you gonna ask me this?
Oh, I'm gonna ask you this.
Oh, he's asking me. I hate it. Hate it. When people find out that I'm a fan of professional wrestling and they tell me, "You know it's fake, right?" Oh, I'm seething right now. It's like if I were to go to a movie and sit down next to someone, like we're watching Star Wars, and I just lean over. "You know this shit's fake, right? Like they're not really in hyperspace. You know that, right? Get out of town with that. It's fake bullshit." Oh my god. Like, if I'm living in the Matrix, don't tell me I'm in the Matrix. Let me enjoy my fucking steak. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I am. Are you a professional wrestling fan? I don't actually know this, Isaac.
So, it's very interesting. I grew up rural Nevada. One of my best friends, Robert Hale, love you, buddy, if you're hearing this, introduced me, and I would go over and we would watch professional wrestling at his place. For my brother's birthday, I don't remember if Eli remembers this, but we recorded in my backyard via my parents' rinky-dink camera, recorded a wrestling match for his birthday. I think I was the ref, and I elbow dropped somebody or something like that, but I had a lot of fun doing that. And so I'm not a big fan, but I have had a couple touch moments where I have been involved and enjoyed and I hope this doesn't come across as insincere, but the absurdity and the high flying act that is WWE and all its other sundry proliferations.
Oh, not at all. It's absolutely absurd and whimsical and ridiculous, and that's why I love it.
I wonder if, and maybe this is something you can talk to kind of dip back down to normal land, but I think a lot of people that aren't fans of it get the incorrect impression that it's for those dumb people in the Midwest and they all think it's real. which it sounds like talking, the people I knew and the people that you knew and yourself, it sounds like it's obviously fake, but that's, we enjoy it so much that for us it becomes real through artifice. Like when you read a really good book, you feel sucked in. When you watch a really good wrestling match, you feel sucked in, and you lose that artifice that is the creation aspect of.
That's absolutely what it is. You lose yourself in it, just like a good movie, like you said, like a good book. The storylines, they cater storylines to really touch on the average man, like Dusty Rhodes's famous everyman promo. There are the storylines, the characters you get invested in. It's not, the matches are fantastic too when they tell a good story. Some of them are terrible, but we won't get into that because we'll be here for another hour. But like you said, people look at the matches with no context of what story is going on and think this is obviously fake. I can see the punch missing a mile away. And I'm just sitting there going, because it's very condescending when they do it. It's very like, oh, ho, ho.
Let me learn you something.
Yeah. Wow, really? You mean to tell me someone falling off of a ladder 10 feet in the sky and landing through a table and doesn't need an ambulance and gets up 5 minutes later isn't real? Tell me more. I am in awe of your intelligence. I bow at the obelisk of knowledge that you have. My goodness.
When did you first notice this raising your ire to the degree it does?
Oh, man. Well, it didn't start in elementary school, because in elementary school, I started loving it, and some of my other friends started loving it. But it was around, like, the 20s. I'd be hanging out with friends, and I just wouldn't mention it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then I'd be like, oh, did you catch the latest, whatever, Shawn Michaels match? And they'd be like, who's that? Oh, it's, wrestling. Dude, you still watch wrestling? You know that stuff's fake. And I'm like, even if it wasn't, how much of a dick do you have to be to disillusion someone so badly?
Yeah.
Right? Like...
And also, like, the high... the throne of knowledge that they come from, where they're trying to, like, save you. Like,
I know, right?
This isn't, I'm not giving my money to Santa and getting nothing back. I'm giving my time to this thing that I enjoy. If it's real, if it's fake, it's literally inconsequential.
Well, my favorite thing to do now is just pretend it's not. And just be
no, dude.
Wait, no, it's not. It's real, bro. It's real. And
there's a guy that's died 100 times, and he's come back every time and takes the souls of dead wrestlers with him to the grave. No, there's real life wizards, homie. Like...
They're real life wizards who, and that's how they don't have any bruises, bro. Oh my god.
Let me learn you something.
Wait, you mean to tell me he doesn't have paranormal powers? That they happen to capture on screen? Yeah, no, and once you get into... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go.
Once you get into it, like, there's the surface level, like, I'm a fan of wrestling, I'm a fan of the storylines, there's some good storylines right now. But then you delve into... like the behind the scenes stuff, and that's when you've gone too far, because the behind the scenes stuff is way more fascinating. There's a term that we use. If you're a fan of wrestling, you're called a mark.
Okay.
And that comes from the days when professional wrestling was really more so just a carnival act.
Mm-hmm.
And carnies would go around looking for marks, people who they could scam out of money. Oh, look at that guy with the deep pockets and vacant glare. He's a mark. Let's take his money.
Mm-hmm.
And the wrestling community, the fans, have taken that on. as almost like a badge of honor. Like, I'm a mark. I know this isn't real, but I keep up to date with it and the behind the scenes stuff.
Hmm.
And there's we call it the Internet Wrestling Community, the IWC, which is basically any mark on the internet. You're part of the IWC. And most of the discussions aren't even about the wrestling, it's about the backstage drama.
Love it.
Yeah, it is. And you can tell, too. You can tell when someone's a mark, because they'll be wearing, like, a shirt, and you can just be like, oh, you're a mark. And there's this, their eyes open, and violins start playing. Because in this world of 7 billion people, you've found someone who understands. Who speaks your language.
Well, to dip back into the obnoxious, do you have a time when your peeve shone the broadest? Do you have a time where your peeve shone the boldest?
Probably not, to be honest. Just because people say that and I just don't waste my time with it anymore. It's like, oh, you know that's fake, right? Oh, is it? Oh, well, that ruins it. Because why would I...
It might be fake, but you're not a person worth my time or energy. Bye.
Bye. Yeah. There's this famous clip. It was an independent wrestling show in a high school gym. I think they were doing like an interview with some famous older wrestlers. And a middle-aged man, almost the stereotypical wrestling fan, and I hate to say it that way. My apologies to every other mark who's listening to this. But he's got like the button-down dress shirt and the khakis, I think, or jeans. Like thick old glasses. He's kind of balding.
Uh-huh.
And he just starts crying and like, it's still real to me, damn it.
Aww.
And I'm just like, yes. So if I talk wrestling, I only talk wrestling with people who understand where it comes from, and I just don't waste my time. Do you watch wrestling? No? Okay, let's talk about some other bullshit. I don't know.
Neat. Yeah, exactly. Well, before we head out, I've got this video that I will include in the link. It's one of my favorite video essays. It's by the YouTuber Up to My Knees, who's Max Landis, and it's called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling. Have you seen this before?
I have not.
Ooh, I am going to hopefully make your day. I will send this to you directly, and I implore all of you to look in the description and check that out as well. It is a fantastic kind of education and typification of why the term wrestling isn't wrestling, or it's fake, right, is just hogwash, and not necessarily why you're hurting people, but no more. It's a great educational kind of loving parody of wrestling and showcasing why wrestling is awesome. It's fantastic. It'll be in the link below, and I implore you to spend 20 minutes if you have the time and intrigue to learn more about why the history and the excellence that is wrestling that is showcased in this video. Anyway,
I know I'm gonna watch it. That sounds fascinating.
Yes, another convert. And with that, we're going to head to our second ad break, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Billy's going to enter the lightning round.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever just looked at fried carbs on a plate and thought, I need to eat those, but it doesn't taste all that appetizing? Introducing catsup. Catsup is a sugary and red syrupy paste that'll overshadow any unappreciated taste. Simply douse the unpreferred tasting object and ingest. Mmm. Thanks, catsup. And we're back. Billy, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round?
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right, buckle your seatbelts and keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Billy, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Absolutely. It's going to be a high amount of dollars, though. Warren Buffett would be proud of me.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Ooh, make the food 100%. Fuck dishes. I hate dishes.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Absolutely, but not in grad school if any of my professors are listening to this.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
Everyone is wrong. I am wrong. The children are wrong. Everyone is out of touch. No one knows what's going on. Just chaos and anarchy everywhere.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Gilbert Gottfried. Absolutely Gilbert Gottfried.
Would you rather read the cue cards while wearing a crown or live in a hovel and speak your mind?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to say crown because I can mess with the cue cards and whoever is actually in charge will get fired.
All right, here's a freebie. Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Cool as fuck.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Something terrible. Why would I ever have 2 amazing days in a row, Isaac? Why would anything good ever happen?
Nick Cage, best or worst ever?
Yes.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
My thoughts enter me through the cosmic reticulum of time and space.
Bears, Beats, or Battlestar Galactica?
Ooh, bears.
Are truth and reality the same thing?
Yes, to a certain extent, depending on what the subject is. However, perception is 99% of reality.
Cheese fries, an abomination or gift from God?
Cheese fries are not a gift from God, my good sir. They are God themselves. Cheese fries are the highest aspiration for any being to be.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
I believe in infatuation at first sight. I believe love is a mixture of 3 things, such as in Sternberg's triarchic theory of love, where it's a mix of intimacy, passion, and commitment.
Do you listen to albums, shuffle, or playlist?
Shuffle.
Are we simultaneously living in other dimensions at this very moment?
I think that the multidimensional paradigm was created by a scientist who had way too much marijuana from another experiment.
Beatles or Elvis?
Oh, Beatles, just because of the haircuts.
Would you rather the checkout line never had a line or the fast food place always gave you a large fry when you asked for a medium?
I'm going to say grocery with no line so that I can get to the fast food place faster.
Would you rather have the superpowers to travel into the vastness of space or the darkness of the ocean depths?
Neither, because I'm going to drown or I'm going to asphyxiate in space because you didn't specifically state that those powers let me explore those environments safely.
Cake or pie?
Oh, pie. Cake. Okay, I hate cake, okay? So I'm sorry, this is going to totally ruin the format, but I'm going to vent about cake. Cake is dry, it's crumbly. If you need icing to make cake palatable, then cake, it's just cardboard with sugar. Unless it's ice cream cake, in which case I only eat the ice cream part. I don't eat the cake part. I leave the cake for the seagulls, and even the seagulls don't eat it because cake is gross.
Would you rather have the top or bottom half of a mermaid body?
I would rather have the fish head and the top half of a mermaid body. Repeat that question, good sir.
Would you rather have the top or bottom half of a mermaid body?
I'd rather have the top half. That way I could run around in a seashell bra. Those things are comfortable.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art or media?
Yes, every time I look in the mirror.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Dude, if you ain't watched Rescue Rangers... That's all I'm gonna say. Gadget has my heart. That's all I'm gonna say.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
I could eat them twice for twice that much money.
Congratulations, you've survived the lightning round!
Yes!
Woo! But now, I, like many listeners at home, would like to know, what is your favorite food that you could eat 37 of in a 1-hour time limit? Nay, 74 of.
I'm going to have to say the Nutella and Biscoff sandwich.
Jesus Christ. I don't know if you're going to be alive at the end of that, but I applaud you, sir.
It'll be the happiest death ever recorded.
Well,
They're just
as
gonna
a
find my body covered in Nutella and Biscoff and a huge grin in my face, half a sandwich hanging out. It's coming out of my nostrils. One in my hand just clenched while the other one just clenches my chest.
as a reward for surviving, nay, defeating such a trial, would you like to now ask myself and future guests a lightning round question of your own?
Ooh, here's a good one. Might break your mind a little bit. What's more important, freedom or structure?
The American in me wants to say freedom. The college graduate who is more in touch with himself than he has ever been knows that it's structure.
Ooh. Now, do you think that answer is going to change between people, or do you think you'll be able to anticipate what people might say?
I would say I have a guess, but I think it's going to change from person to person. I think it's also one of those things that I think is going to be slightly polarized based on age groups. I think the younger you are, the more likely it's freedom, but the older you are, the more likely it's structure. But it's person to person. There's friends I have that think structure is Satan, so they're going to snap off freedom even if they don't even care, just because the idea of the notion of structure is the notion of one's own demise.
That's fair.
What about you?
I think you're going to cause a lot of existential crises. I feel like you're going to ask this to someone, the interview's going to end, they're going to be in bed, and they'll just be mumbling, "Is freedom just a type of structure? Ah! Is freedom within a structure? Does that still count as freedom? Ah! Who am I?"
Well, before we go that far down the rabbit hole, is there anything you want to plug, shout-outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Billy Sense. That's at BILLI_SENSE. The Instagram's going to be just a lot of pictures of my kid and my aquarium. The Twitter is going to be a lot of left-leaning retweets and a lot of pro wrestling stuff. Check out our latest drop on Amazon or your local bookstores. Support your independent bookstores. It's Stranger Things Psychology, Life Upside Down. I wrote a chapter on Murray Bowman and the psychology of conspiracy theories.
Do you have any friends or family you'd like to nominate to come on this podcast so they too can suffer as you have today?
Absolutely. I'll call him out right now.
Hell yeah.
I think Tim Shields would be fantastic. He's a great raconteur. Happy to connect you guys after this. Dr. Travis Langley, he's the author of Batman Psychology, Dark and Stormy Night. I think he'd be fantastic on this. And a couple other people, but those two are the ones that come right to mind.
All right. Tim Shields, Dr. Travis Langley, we're coming for you.
Oh yeah, brother.
Well, thank you, Billy, for being my guest today, and a special thanks are due to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home or where you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I really appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sibeliello. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.